Friends, this is the B-side for the Pale Wave song Heavenly. Specifically, actually, the first thing I wanted to talk about in it was that this is about the unreleased demo of it, and so I thought that was really interesting. I talked a lot in a couple of my other entries in this playlist about how I wonder if it's doing a violence to assign mourning when it's not there. Because in the end, well, there's three versions of Heavenly. One is from their first ever demo CD. One of them is from the demo itself that is in this playlist, and then the third is the one they evidently finally released. And one thing that I thought has been interesting as I get familiar with the Pale Waves more and more is that when Heather Baron Gracie sings live, she kind of combines lyrics from all three of them. So, for example, one of the ones from the first ever demo CD is "You Got Me Like the Sunset View," and then there's all kinds of stuff from this version that makes it occasionally into live performances, specifically the line about "This night is electric and I'm sympathetic." And so it exists in all these different forms. And so I was thinking though, why is my favorite the one that reminds me of mourning, when the one that Heather Baron Gracie liked, at least the most to make it the official version, was Heavenly, which is kind of a poppy song. I mean, it has the line "I want to waste away with you," but there's not a lot of mourning present in it, at least I feel. And so this version was one of the pieces I talked about in my MP1. Specifically, I talked about it in relationship to one-star reviews of the Taj Mahal and how we mourn when our expectations aren't met. And Baron Gracie has found herself with a partner who isn't enjoying the night as much as she is. And the two of them have this very long and troubled relationship. And the two of them would probably be better off pulling the plug. But I kind of wrote in the MP1, and we'll say again here, that mourning isn't logical. One of the lines in the song is, I wasn't going to see you tonight. It seems I'm ignoring my own advice. And, to really think about that, it's why do you want to spend a night with someone who, to see them is to go against your own advice and better judgment? And, why do you mourn a relationship with this person who wasn't making you happy? And it's because of the illogicality of mourning, much in the same way in one-star reviews of the Taj Mahal, there's a line that says, it was a man-made attraction, because it has to be. And so, that was an interesting thing for me in this demo, but also another was how we can mourn someone and love them, but also be just at the end of our rope with them. And so I think that comes up a little bit when I talk about Wither Away, but there's a line in this where she says, "This night is electric and you're being pathetic." Several times throughout this song, Baron Gracie insults her partner like this because she's mourned them for so long and she's sick of it. And the mourning has been futile because there's still these people. And then, one big takeaway that I had to be sure to talk about was the sensory nature of mourning. So in Ross Gay's Feet, he mentions the Power Man and Luke Cage comic that takes him back. And then in this, she says, "I hate that perfume. Reminds me of the first night that I met you." And that to me was really interesting. I wrote a little bit in the MP1 about Proust and the Proustian moments. Proust talks a lot about the idea of involuntary memory. When we try to remember things, it's this really imperfect, complicated process, but involuntary memory is really strong. It's when we, usually through the input of our senses, remember something in much clearer detail than we had before. So for example, in this case, Baron Gracie probably has a picture in her head about what that first night was, but this perfume just brings her right back to it. And it's involuntary memory as well as involuntary mourning. She just wants to be out enjoying herself, but she's brought back to the mourning. And this was one of the three pieces I talked about in the MP1, because to me, it's one of the most perfect encapsulations of grieving as this really messy, complicated process that defies rationality and sometimes even defies us, because we don't want to mourn, and yet we don't have a choice to. So I thought that this was definitely worth including in the playlist.